Alright, so let's get started. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about different elements of side-scrollers, like different camera angles and depth of the scene. We're also going to look at our concept art, which is on the screen right now, that I've created and break it down into simple elements, not only understanding our environment, but also making it easier on us when we go and actually 3D model everything. So let's take a look at our concept art right now. And we're going to break it down into the smaller elements. So the repeated shapes, the repeated objects, things that might share the same texture, just so we have a stronger understanding of what we're actually getting into. Now, if you're doing this with your own concept art, you can follow along by just taking a low opacity brush and just drawing it across the different objects and just drop your opacity there. So you can kind of identify certain things. Let me just delete that. Yep. All right. So the first thing that we have here are our braces. And these are in the back right here. So we can use the same ones, just one over there, and repeat it down all the hallway. We have our center platform, which is made out of this metal with these studs that run around it. We have these cameras up top, which have like a little glow, which is going to be fun to create inside of Unreal 4. We have these lights down here, which will also have a nice glow around them, which will be a cool emissive effect inside of Unreal 4, which we'll get to later. Then we have these vents in the background. Now the vents are important because they give context to this kind of like fogginess in the center, which is going to help give an extra atmospheric depth to our scene. We also have a little save icon up here. I just wanted to give something that we could have context to what the player might be doing in the scene, and that would be, this is a save area, so you grab that and save your game. We also have our ceiling and floor and this girder in the background. Now these are all blue because they all look like they share the same texture. And lastly, we have our background, which is red, and also our wires, which are hanging down here, which are slightly darker red. Now, with all of this stuff broken out into its different colors, we can easily identify things that we're going to work on. We can always come back to our concept and be like, all right, right now I'm just going to work on these guys right back here. So what do I need to do for them? It makes the scene a little bit less daunting, a little bit easier to take a look at. So to save your time, I've actually already blocked out a small section of this level inside of 3ds Max. Now if I open it up right here, you can see that we have our girders in the back, our background, ceiling and floor, our wires, what will become our lights. We have a little player character right here that we can use for scale reference. And lastly, something that I deviated a bit from the concept was creating these wires. Now if you come up to perspective and hit left, or you could just tap the L key on your keyboard, we're going to go to our left orthographic view. Now this is more or less the camera angle that our game is going to be in, so it's good to always come back and take a quick reference to make sure that everything looks right. Now I added these wires here because I felt that they gave an additional level of depth because they kind of are snaking around and then spilling over, and when our player runs by they'll have to kind of jump over them. I thought it gave just a nice little bit of context to the rest of the scene. Now, this actually segues into another important part that I wanted to talk about, which is the difference between modern-day side-scrollers and old side-scrollers. Now, modern-day side-scrollers like Metroid Other M or Explosion Man are called 2.5D, and they usually have camera angles that, while are still technically side-scrollers, usually have a lot more depth to them, where you can actually see down into the third dimension. Older side-scrollers like the original Metroid or Mega Man are orthographic, so if I hit L again, they look straight on from the side. Now, that means that we need to be a little bit more concerned with making it look like our level has depth and doesn't look flat. So that will be a major challenge. But using elements like the lights that are in front of the player when the player runs by, or these wires that spill over into the front of the camera, are going to be really, really useful. And additionally, we're going to use atmospheric effects inside of Unreal 4 to make that look really deep and cool looking. We're also going to do a lot of lighting tricks and post-process effects, which are going to make the scene really pop. But what's most important right now is making all our meshes look good. So in the next chapter, we're going to actually get started making our meshes for our side-scrolling scene.